super was made compulsory because it was designed to help Australians save for their retirement. Has it actually worked?
Well, the plain fact is we don't actually know. The first people that will be the major beneficiaries of receiving their super only joined 30 years ago. 30 years in the workforce, having compulsory placings into their super. The first real beneficiaries, we don't really know, which is why it's a little jarring to hear talk of Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, potentially changing the rules. These Australians have been playing by the rules for 30 years straight. And I believe it's a little unfair that the rules, they're going to get the rug taken out from underneath them. Super funds should only be investing in the markets that best suit the investors. What we are seeing, it's been floated recently that the federal government wants super funds to invest in affordable housing. Now, affordable housing, if it were investable, would have been invested in already by super funds. Why the federal government is telling super funds what to invest in and what not to, or potentially doing so, I'm not really aware of why that's a good idea, because it's not actually their money. It's Australian workers' money. It's not the government's money. It's not the super funds' money. It's our money. And our money should be invested into portions of the market that wield the best results. It should not be used to fund political projects for green types, the federal government's policy agenda at the time, or what the super funds think. It should only be used to maximise the savings for Australians for their retirement.
It is a way of tricking Australians, isn't it, into not protesting harder for these changes that have been made to super?
Absolutely. Before the last federal election, then opposition leader Anthony Albanese said he wouldn't be making any changes to super. Now then that changed to about February this year, my apologies, when he said that we'll be making major changes to super.
Superannuation is withholding cash from young Australians in a time of their lives where they need it most. I mean, I hate to sound like a lefty here, but I think that's just immoral, don't you?
Yes. Australians should be able to enter the housing market. And unfortunately, we are in the middle of a perfect policy storm with housing. Superannuation prevents Australians from using their own dollars for the now. But not just that, there are supply and demand issues with housing. But the government only seems to be ready to deal with the supply issues. IPA research found that there's going to be a housing shortage of over 250,000 homes by 2028 because of the government's migration policies. They're unplanned. 1.7 million more people over the next 5 years. Added to that, Australians aren't going to be able to use their own dollars for the now to buy homes when there's going to be 250,000 short of them. And we know that we have a housing shortage. 70% of net new housing supply just last financial year went to international students alone, equivalent of 70%.